Hi everyone, this is Tech Andrew again, and today we are discussing what are the most common machine learning problems and what are the best tools to solve them. And we are going to do this in under 10 minutes. And as a bonus, I would like to mention that to solve most of the problems and to use most of the tools, you don't need to be a machine learning expert. You don't even need to be able to code. So stay tuned and let's go. We are going to classify the problems by two variables. Basically, by how specific your problem and data set is, and how much skills you need to solve them. So as you can see on this chart, I've used the x and y axis to display those variables. And let's type as an example to make it less confusing. So in machine learning, we have a few types of very well-defined and very well-studied problems. And probably the most studied of them is classification. And in this example, I'm using the classification of common objects. So you basically have images and you would like to know what you have on the image: cat, dog, person, car, whatever. So this is a classification problem with very simple data set. It's a common objects in a common context. What are other well-studied problems we could have in machine learning? So that could be classification, as we mentioned. That will also be object detection for computer vision. So when we not only classifying the image, but also trying to understand what is the location of the object we are interested in. As well as it could be sentiment analysis in natural language processing. So when we have tweets or we have reviews given by users, and we would like to know whether that was positive or negative and how strongly the user was happy or unhappy about your product or service. So that will be a sentiment analysis. And then also you could have a regression problem. So for example, regression problems are often used to model, to forecast things. And when you have a tabular data, let's say number of new cases of COVID-19 in a country, and you have the dynamics still today, you would like to find a function which would approximate this dynamics and use this function to describe what will happen in the future. So in this example, you could see that you have two models which are both suitable for now. It's a logistic and exponential model, and I really hope that everything will go through according to logistic model, not exponential one. So that was a few types of common problems, and you are very lucky if your problem like one of them, because with such a problem, to be able to solve it, you would already have a ready solution, which would be called machine learning API. In different providers could call them differently, but you will meet them at all the major clouds. And this machine learning API, it will be a machine learning model already trained for your problem, already trained for some specific number of classes and cases. And what you just need to use it. So if you have an app where user could leave reviews, the app is in English, French, or any other widely spoken language, and you would like to know what the sentiment, you don't need to train anything. You just plug in the model and you just do the API call and get the result back and start using the result. So that's as simple as it is. But now, what if you still have a very simple problem of classification, but now your data is more specific? So in this example, continuing in case of cats and dogs, what if you already classified that this is a cat and this is a dog, and now you would like to know what is the breed of the dogs that you just seen? So now it's still the classification problem. It's a very simple one that we discussed, but now the data is very specific. So for such problems, you would not find a pre-trained solution, but what you will find a lot of providers such as Google AutoML or DataRobot, which will allow you to feed your data in. Then you are annotating the data, clicking a few buttons to train the model, and then start training. In an hour or two, you will get your model, and you could, with another click or two, deploy this model as the API. So all of those services, all those providers, they will allow you, having your custom data, build a model like machine learning API that we discussed previously, but for your custom data set. I think 5 years ago, as a data scientist, you could also solve classification problem. But now, with this AutoML, you would be able to solve it in under 1 or 2 hours. I remember a Kaggle challenge trying to predict the price at which the piece of equipment will be sold. And I remember teams competing for weeks, even months, trying to get the best model. And I've launched unammon, the dataset from this competition, and I've been able to got to silver in this dataset. So that's just amazing how quickly this technology evolved and how far we are right now. But now, what if you have a slightly different problem? What if it's not simply classification or segmentation or regression or any other well-studied and well-defined problem? For example, you would like to have in an image of the cat or a dog or a pet generate the name or for that pet. So it's not a well-defined problem. It's a combination of natural language processing and computer vision, and it's very non-straightforward. So now, to solve the problem like that, you will need to have a lot of coding skills, and you will need to know deep learning frameworks such as TensorFlow or PyTorch. You will need to know some bits of NLP. You will need to know Python or R to do the modeling, and you will be able to decompose this problem into natural language part, into image analysis part, and do your research and solve this problem. But even though you will need to build a custom model for that, so you will not find a solution which will allow you to do this with a few clicks of a button. But then when you build your own model for that, and you would like to integrate it with all the other steps that you had previously, so basically use it as an API, you could still use some of the cloud services like CloudML to deploy your custom model, especially the TensorFlow one, as an API and use it alongside with all of the other. So at the end of the day, the most common way to use the model will be to deploy it as an API and just call this model or integrate it with your infrastructure and with your database. Actually, as you can see, for the problem number 1 and 2, you don't even need to be able to code or don't need to know any machine learning except for very basics. So as a data scientist, you will end up either being an architect, so trying to select the right services to solve the right problem, or being a researcher and going this further right and trying to solve more and more cross-disciplinary and very specific problems. So in the next videos, I'm going to review those APIs and capabilities of the machine learning as a service platforms in more details. In the meanwhile, let me know which of them are the most interesting for you and which of them you've used. Also, let me know which clouds are you using, if you are using any, so I know which one to choose as a demo one. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the content, so give me a thumbs up and please subscribe, and see you next time. Bye bye.